Hello everyone and welcome back to another build showcase. Today we're going to be going over a prismatic build that I kind of came onto by accident, not going to lie. Alright, let's hop right into it. Starting off here, like I said, this is a Prismatic Hunter class. So what we're going to be using, we're going to be using the Golden Gun Marksman. For our abilities, we're going to be using Gambler's Dodge, Triple Jump. These are up to you. I prefer Gambler's Dodge and Triple Jump. We're using the Knife Trick because it scorches enemies. You don't necessarily need to use this. You can use Threaded Spike. You can use Withering Blade. Whatever you kind of prefer for the melee. This is actually up for personal choice. For our grenade, though, we are going to be using the grapple because it's kind of unmatched. It's pretty insane being able to get all of that movement plus getting basically an extra melee charge off. Now for our aspects, we're going to be using Gunpowder Gamble because one of the cool interactions is in Prismatic when you're using the grapple. If you grapple and then melee and you get that grapple melee off, the subsequent kills you get with that actually give you Gunpowder Gamble stacks. So you could kill 3 or 4 red health enemies at once and basically have your entire Gunpowder Gamble up already, which is pretty awesome. Now moving on to our second aspect, we are using the Threaded Spectre. The reason we're using the Threaded Spectre is because it is kind of unmatched for survivability. Dropping a decoy that grabs the attention of nearby combatants is really strong and allows you to go through and make sure you can survive a little better. Now moving on to our fragments. With these you do have 6 fragments, so as we go through here you'll kind of see. Defeating targets afflicted with stasis or strand debuffs grant light transcendent energy. One of the best parts about this is whenever you grapple melee, you're going to be debuffing them with strand, making it so that you can get light transcendence energy, as well as giving you plus 10 to the melee. Always helpful. For our next fragment, we're using Facet of Purpose. Picking up an orbital power grants you either Bolt Charge, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, or Overshield. The Restoration here is going to be helpful to keeping us alive. Our next facet is Facet of Blessing. Melee final blows grant health regeneration. While transcendent, it also grants it for you and nearby allies. This also is just going to increase our survivability. Since you will be grapple meleeing quite a bit, it's going to give you it back pretty well. Moving on to our next, right now I have Facet of Bravery on here. I'm actually going to switch this out. So Facet of Bravery gives you volatile rounds when you get grenade final blows, or defeating targets with powered melee grants unraveling rounds to our strand weapons. Problem is, we're not going to really be using a strand weapon very often. Now, if you do have a strand weapon or a void weapon with this could be a good alternative. But I think what we're going to actually throw on there is Facet of Mending, because we're going to get grenade final blows a decent amount. Because if you didn't know, your grapple melee does count as a grenade final blow, as well as throwing strands, like the strand tangles at enemies will count as grenade final blows. We're going to be getting Cure a lot, which will just increase our survivability a little bit more. Moving on, our Facet of Ruin increases the size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target. It also increases the area of effect of solar ignitions. This is going to key into, you got it, Gunpowder Gamble. Because when you throw the solar explosive, it can be shot mid-air to cause an ignition. So this increasing the size and area of effect of your solar ignitions is going to cause lots of explosions. By lots of explosions, I mean one very big one every time you throw one of those Gunpowder Gamble grenades, and you're going to be getting Gunpowder Gamble grenades a lot. And finally, last but not least, Facet of Dawn. Powered melee hits against targets makes you radiant. Powered melee final blows make you and nearby allies radiant. This just allows us to increase our damage because when you're radiant, your weapons are enhanced and you deal increased damage to combatants. Now, for our armor piece of choice, we are going to be using the Relativism for our exotic, and I am using the Spirit of Inmost Light, and I can never pronounce this one, but it is the one that gives you Woven Mail anytime you use your grenade charge. So every time we grapple, every time we throw out one of the Gunpowder Gamble explosives, we're going to be getting Woven Mail or resetting our Woven Mail so that it's a constant buff to us. Now, talking on stats a little bit here, what I have chosen for my 2 100s, if you can't get to 2 100s, that's okay, but I have chosen melee and super strictly because that's what my armor allows for right now. Realistically, if you could do melee and grenade, that would be huge, or melee and weapon. You definitely want your melee up high because that's going to benefit your grapple melee as well as your normal melee. Additionally, if you can get your grenade up over 100, that also benefits your grapple melee and gets you your grapple melee back, which is huge. And then your class ability is always good to have. Now, one thing that I have been saying wrong in these build showcases, and I apologize for this, it is your melee ability, your melee stat that you need to have above level 70 so that when you use your Gambler's Dodge, you get a full melee charge back. I was wrong. I thought it was your class ability you needed to have at 70. It's not. It's your melee stat that you need to have at 70 in order to get a full charge back when you use Gambler's Dodge. So that's something to note. Moving on here. Now, I actually have my class ability up here a lot because I wanted to get it back faster. But you could switch these out if you wanted to get one of these up higher. So say I want to get my grenade up higher, I can actually swap these over to grenade, and we'll give that a try. Why not? We'll swap a lot of these over to grenade and see if that actually helps more. Now, I am running a super font. Now, if you didn't know what the super fonts do, or the fonts in general, when you pick up an orb of power, it increases your super stat while you have that armor charge. So collecting an orb of power will grant you an armor charge. Now, while you have that armor charge, it's several seconds that you're going to have this, it increases your super stat, or whatever the font happens to be. If it's a melee font, if it's a grenade font, whatever, it increases it. So basically, you're adding on additional stat value to this. So I already have it over 100. It's increasing it even more, making it higher. Hands-on, gain bonus super energy on melee kills, and then harmonic siphon. Because we're using the solar super, our solar weapons will grant us orbs of power on weapon final blows, rapid weapon final blows. Moving on to our gauntlets for our mods. Again, let's switch this over. Let's get our grenade up even higher. So now we've got almost 100 in our grenade stat as well, and we'll see how that works for us. Now, impact induction is our second mod, causing damage with a powered melee reduces our grenade cooldown. Heavy-handed melee final blows create orbs of power, and then momentum transfer, causing melee damage with a grenade reduces your melee cooldown. These are all good to have. Could maybe swap this out for a melee font, but I think it's more important to get the orb of power than it is to actually get a little bit of increased stat on our melee. Moving on to our armor. Now, I do have a tier 5 armor piece here, so I do get an additional stat, but that's of no consequence. So right here we have a melee mod just to make sure our melee is up over 100. We've got harmonic resistance, so it's going to reduce incoming solar damage, and then you can swap these out for whatever damage resistance you need for the activity you're doing. And again, onto our legs, we've got a melee mod on here, and then we've got innervation and invigoration, both of which will reduce our melee and grenade charge when we pick up orbs of power. And then we've got a void weapon surge on here for some reason. We're going to swap that over to a solar weapon surge. I'm guessing that void weapon surge was left over from a different build and I just never swapped it over. So we're going to run a solar weapon surge instead because we're going to be using solar weapons mostly. And finally, onto our relativism, we've got a super mod here. That's what's kicking our super over 100. And then we've got the Reaper. So shortly after using class ability, next weapon final blow spawns an orbs of power. Bomber reduces grenade cooldown every single time we use our class ability, and the same with this one, and that's just to get our grenade back faster. And finally, moving on to our weapons. For our first weapon, we are using the Mint Retrograde Pulse Rifle. It is the new rocket assisted frame pulse rifle. It is phenomenal. I recommend you get one of these. I recommend you try and get it with rewind rounds and either bait and switch or something else that increases your damage on hit. It is a phenomenal weapon. It's become one of my like main damage weapons recently. It's quite good. For our second, we're actually using the Yeartide Apex, a solar SMG for the Solstice event. If you don't have this, any submachine gun, any solar weapon really will work in this slot as long as it has incandescent. You want the incandescent so that you're causing explosions every time you kill one of the enemies, and additionally it scorches other enemies, so then you could potentially create an ignition on enemies that you're not shooting if they're in range of other enemies that have died due to incandescent. And for a heavy weapon, we are using another solar weapon that has incandescent on it. Really, you should be picking up a theme here of we want as many ways as possible to proc our gunpowder gamble throughout this build. Alright, for the actual build showcase, we're going to go ahead and do Skywatch activity. Now we're going to be running these modifiers on it. You can choose whatever modifiers you need to make it an A tier run. And let's jump right into it. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure we get those 30 precision takedowns, and we're going to complete this. To show off the build, main thing we're going to be doing here is we're going to be getting as many kind of explosive kills as possible. You can see we've already got our gunpowder gamble. The first 4 enemies all counted as a gunpowder gamble kill, and I immediately wasted. I guess I didn't waste it. Wow. I thought for sure that wasn't going to hit anything. Boom. And we've already got gunpowder gamble again. You can see how quickly we can proc that. Just to make sure we get that barrier champ, we swap over to our pulse rifle for a couple shots. Boom, we've already got our melee back. Boom, we've already got our melee back. We've got our gunpowder gamble again. Throw it off. This whole time we're getting our insane amount of woven mail, so it's constantly up. It's never going down. You can just see how quickly we can get all of these things to proc, get them all back, hit all of these enemies, and just go for it. Make sure there's not any more over here. I think we're good to go, so we should be good to go to just progress forward. Now, I've only gotten 9 precision takedowns, so we need to make sure this next area we focus on getting precision takedowns. That way we can finish that out, because we will not get the A tier rewards if we don't complete that challenge. So that's one thing to note. If you're ever running these kind of activities, you want to make sure you complete the challenge and you finish with more than 2 minutes left on the clock. Those are kind of the key components to making sure you get it. Now, we're going to get swarmed here, absolutely, and die, and that's okay, because we were not really playing safe there. We were just kind of running at everything. Now, the Vandals here are the biggest issue on this activity. They all have snipers, and they all love to use them unrelentingly. as you can see. It's really quite silly how many sniper vandals show up and they don't miss. Even if you use your clone, a lot of times they end up hitting you instead, which is just wild. It doesn't matter where you are, they seem to always get an angle on you. So just keep that in mind for this activity in particular. See what I mean? They're everywhere. They're everywhere. You know? And sometimes they're easier than others. Sometimes they're just totally fine. Sometimes they're unyieldy like this. It's really kind of random, if I'm being honest. All right, we've got 21 takedowns. We need to get to 30. Now, as far as I know, I've never been blown up by my own gunpowder gamble. That's not to say it can't happen, but I don't think I've ever been blown up by my own. So realistically, right now, we're just trying to get these transmatted. Once these are transmatted, we can move forward. Not a big deal that we don't have our precision takedowns yet, because we will get a lot more enemies right before the boss that we can finish off. All right. We're trying to get precision takedowns here, and there we go. Boom. Boom. Those count? Those counted. Okay. Melee precisions count. That's good to know. Perfect. Now we've got our 30. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to try and finish this as quick as possible. So we've already got the mini boss complete there. We're going to run in here. We're just going to keep getting our woven mail up. We're going to hit a dodge to get our stuff back. And hit him. We're going to hit our super here. Boom, boom, boom. Pop our prismatic, because every time we use our grenade, we're refreshing our mail. You get your grenade a lot more in prismatic. So it's just a huge benefit to make sure you have that perk on there. Now I'm going to proc bait and switch on that and finish him off. And there you go. As you can see, this build is pretty unmatched to area of effect damage for prismatic in general. Now, I hope this guide was helpful, and I hope this build showcase was helpful, and I hope you enjoy this build. If you do, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more build showcases like this, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.